Join Jesus where he's already at work. We dream of the day where every home in America is adopted by one or more persons living the prayer, care, share lifestyle. Our host, Gary Kendall, began Love KC with the desire to see every home in Kansas City prayed for. Join with him to make this happen. Now, on to the Blessed Podcast.
Welcome to the Blessed Podcast, where we join Jesus where he's already at work, where we live, learn, work, and play. If you're joining the podcast today and the Love KC Blessed Podcast is new to you, then let me say that I hope this is an exciting beginning to begin to think about who you are as a person, that God has given you gifts, God has given you life experiences, God has given you passions, and all of that is pleasing to him. He thought of you before he ever made you. But one of the things that he wants you to do with this gifting is to serve others and to tell of God's love and tell the story of God to others. So we like to talk about at Love KC that we want to help other people live their faith with confidence and know what to say to their friends. So in light of that, we're meeting today with Solomon Dabe. And Solomon leads a ministry called A Bright Future for Kids. It is in Ethiopia and has an expression also in Kansas. Welcome, Solomon.
Well, thank you very much, Gary, for having me. Brooke, thank you for having me. This is a special day because we are in Africa. What a beautiful thing to have this opportunity to do it from Africa to the U.S. frames.
Yes, it is. We're a little jealous of how warm it is there, but we'll get over that.
Well, we are inviting everyone to come over. So
yeah, there you go. Yeah, and you gave us an invitation. I also want to introduce Brooke Powell, who's our co-host for the Blessed Podcast, and really the one who does all of the work behind these podcasts. So I get to get on and talk, but Brooke does all of the back work and the work afterwards. If you want to follow at lovekc.net on resources, what you'll find, Brooke writes a blog and goes into more depth, kind of gives notes for the meeting and links that we might cover here. So thank you, Brooke, for all that you do to make this podcast go.
You're so welcome. It's great to be here, and I'm honored, and it's a privilege to do the work that I do for Love KC. So,
and Solomon, you have a guest with you. Do you want to introduce your guest?
Yes, I would love to introduce my guest. His name is Jonathan. I would say Jonas. Jonas has been serving as a Bright Future for Kids director for Ethiopia. And more so, maybe I'll give you a little time for Jonas to introduce himself.
Hi, everyone. My name is Jonas. It's a great privilege to meet you guys and to join this herd. I love to serve in Jesus with all my heart. So that's why it's just bringing me to this great mission. Thank you very much.
Great. Nice to meet you, Jonas. And let's get right into the mission of A Bright Future for Kids. Solomon, I met you probably 3 to 4 years ago now. And one of the first things I noticed was just the bright look in your eye, the spark. I sensed the Holy Spirit in you, and I was immediately drawn to you as a person. And as I began to hear your story about A Bright Future, I began to understand why you were so motivated. And we don't have time probably for your whole backstory about Germany and everything about that. But all of that in my mind has led up to you providing an opportunity for people in the U.S. to invest in Ethiopia in a very special way. So you're like a great example of that blend we're talking about, where God gave you individual gifts. God has given you life experience. God's given you a passion. You've taken all the gifts that God gave you, and now you're serving others. So you're like a prime example of what we're talking about. So Solomon, any introduction that you want to do, if you want to talk about Tigist or your family for a minute, and then maybe tell us what A Bright Future for Kids is.
Well, again, it's my privilege to be on the podcast, and gracious words that Gary is saying, and I appreciate that. I would like to talk about my beautiful wife, Tigist. I think this has been the backbone of my traveling, my ministry. She's been part of it. And we've got Jonathan, who is 15, and Leah, who is 11. And A Bright Future for Kids has been instructed over 12 years now. One thing I recall that all things works for good. And that's what I see in my life right now. And God is kind of, circle back and sending me to Africa, sending me to the villages where I grew up, and give me a special time with Jonas, who has been part of me as a child. So we see there is a similar passion, similar journey in our lives. So A Bright Future for Kids is, for those who don't know it, it empowers widows who are struggling to send their children to school. And with the help of a monthly support, we make sure that in 3 years, they will find themselves in a different place than they are. And ultimately, for the glory of God, what we do.
That's wonderful.
That's awesome. So can you tell us how did A Bright Future for Kids come about? What happened to get you up to where you are today and how it started?
Yeah, really, what started it, what sparked it, while I was a child of about 9 years or 10 years, I've seen my own sister dying out of malnutrition. And I've been there vividly seeing that. I think that was the sparking point. And I didn't know what to do at that age with that. But I see God is calling me through that to serve those who are really suffering, like my sister. And then the other component of it is being raised with a single mom, and the struggle I saw makes me to focus on those areas. And those are the very core part of A Bright Future for Kids. But also, God has worked it for good, because I see behind that, God is bringing really great people of Kansas City behind it. And we see a lot of people being impacted here in Ethiopia as well.
That's cool.
Oh, yeah, I love that.
So you moved over to the U.S., but you just still had a heart for Ethiopia, right? I
always had that heart. It didn't go away. It fires up every day. Although I've been moving in the different countries and with a different, experience. But since I moved to the U.S. 2004, I can see that God is working for this specific time for me to serve, for me to go back to the places where I came and serve Him in both from African perspective, but serving our community in Kansas City as well is a major part of my life.
Wow. Really shows it's the Lord's will when something doesn't go away, like it just stays with you and you're like, I can't stop until I do this.
Sometimes, I say, God, why do I have, sometimes it's painful, but that's how the beauty of that comes out of those struggle, out of those questions. God meet me in there.
Mm-hmm. So. Well, thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, that's beautiful, Solomon. It just reminds me of the saying we've all heard, that we're blessed to be a blessing. God brought you to the U.S., and it was one of His ways He was caring for you as a person. But you could have come here and just gotten a job and gotten busy doing things and not, turned around and been the blessing for others. But you are blessed to be a blessing. And it reminds me of a statement that I really believe in, that, God made us, He wired us for contribution, not consumption. The world seems to believe that, the way we find peace or happiness or joy is by doing things that are fun, doing things that are satisfying, sating our senses, so to speak. But I just think the reality is God made us to be a giver. He made us to be a contributor. And we're really wired for contribution, not consumption. And you've demonstrated that in your life. Tell us a little bit about the recent project you did, because I was fascinated by the food packing project. And that's actually why I think you're in Ethiopia right now.
Yeah, the food project with the partnership of Heartland Community Church in Olepa, they have donated 50,000 package of foods for the areas of Ethiopia where people are displaced by millions, and people who are really suffering because of food shortage. And that's how things come together. And Heartland really generously, sacrificially, I would say, came alongside of us to ship it through air to bring it to Ethiopia. So as I speak, by tomorrow, that shipment's going to reach in Ethiopia. And we're looking forward to go and distribute these meals. But also, with that, we will show our love. And I would say, really, thank you, people of Heartlanders, and really Kansas City, the heart they have. And so that's the one reason I'm here. And we're looking forward for that opportunity now.
So Heartland Community Church came alongside of you. You had a relationship with Jade, I know at one point, Jade Van Slyke, who also works for Love KC. And then you had relationship with others in the church, and the church caught the vision. They've actually done multiple things. I've seen Heartland do a variety of things for you, which I think is very cool. I wanted to come to one of the times they hosted something with Ethiopian coffee, and I missed it. But I'm grateful for Heartland and the way they came alongside. How would let's say that someone who doesn't go to Heartland wanted to help, how would they participate with A Bright Future for Kids, if they're in the U.S.?
Well, thank you for that question, Gary. And first of all, we would like them to continue praying for A Bright Future for Kids. And that's one way they can serve. But we also will have a website that they can contribute financially and be part of the A Bright Future for Kids. And by traveling with us is the third part. For them to see them, for them to be part of it is another way. So pray for us, get engaged financially, and join us in our mission by traveling, by coming to the field. And if you have some words, how can they be part of A Bright Future for Kids? Jonas, let me give a little bit time for you. How can get engaged to A Bright Future for Kids?
So you mean the generic?
In Kansas City, friends from Kansas City.
Oh, when they're coming here.
Or when they are there.
So they just joining. I'm sorry, I just missed the.
Well, he would have said it the same way. Pray for us, and the financial part of it is one other things that they can get engaged.
Yeah. So there are so many ways, but one thing that the community there can contribute financially and prayerfully. So that's something that you guys can contribute.
Solomon, how many times a year do you go to Ethiopia? When you say you could go with us to Ethiopia, how many times a year do you go?
As of now, we are going twice a year.
Twice. What is the cost?
It costs about $2,300, including the logistics and a flight. And
when you go, you're there for how long?
Typically from 10 to 12 days.
Okay.
And
I know my wife and I have been to Ethiopia. Just had a marvelous experience there. It's probably been 10 years ago now, but it was wonderful.
Mm.
The fun fact of Ethiopia, did you know that we are in 2014 right now?
2014.
You turn back
2014.
time.
8 years back, actually.
8 years back. If you are in Ethiopia, you would be 8 years younger than you actually is in Kansas City.
But what's not fair is you would look the same, so you would and feel the same.
Actually, it is the first African country. We have our own fiddle, the alphabet, and our own calendar. It's 8 years back from the European calendar.
Wow.
Wow.
Something unique about Ethiopia.
Wow.
Wow.
And a great coffee lovers, come over
Yes.
to Ethiopia. You will love that.
I agree with that for sure.
So I'm curious, what are some of the greatest challenges that you're facing, that the organization's facing? If someone's curious how they can help, or if there's anything they can do, just curious, what are your greatest challenges right now?
Well, good question. You know, we just got registered and we are a legal entity in Ethiopia. The challenges ahead of us, but there is an opportunity for that to, you know, we would go out now even more in the community. But for that to happen is people have to really engage financially for us to expand our activities in the villages where we are serving. And we have a project that might be a very useful for the youth as well in that community. We are planning to do something after school programs. There will be multiple programs that we are creating now. And with that, people can get engaged. And that's the challenge. The challenge is just the provision right now.
Okay. And so
Probably not. Yeah. So in addition to what Solomon said, we don't have a fixed place to serve other communities. Keep few resources. You know, we're just using our office. We're just satelliting. You know, serving them. So actually, as you know, an organization, we don't have a fixed space to serving others, to pray for them. We're just using different churches, going here and there. So
we are mobile right now, but again, you know, a child development center, a resource center, those are very crucial for the next generation coming. And we would like to have space. Yeah. Space is very immediate need right now.
Okay.
So,
thank you for sharing. If someone wanted to give, would they go to abrightfutureforkids.org?
Yes.
Okay.
When they go there, you know, it will lead them which way to give. We've got a variety way of giving. You know, if not money, then you can give stocks and all those things. People can diversify their giving. That's the beauty of that platform.
Okay.
Yeah, that's really good, Solomon. So you have with a Bright Future for Kids, I think you work through iDonate, right? And so you have a link to iDonate and an account with iDonate. So then they can basically give stocks, they can give non-liquid gifts, they could trade a vehicle, and if they wanted to, and iDonate would sell the vehicle and then they would give you the money. So that's really smart thinking on your part. And congratulations on getting accepted in Ethiopia and getting your Good Housekeeping seal of approval there.
Well, yeah,
that's
thank
wonderful.
you for cancer. This is a beautiful thing. This is a prayer, has been the prayer of many, many Kansas Cityans there to see this happening. And this is a really big deal here for us.
Yeah, I remember when we were trying to get our 501c3, you were one of the big encouragers to me. Like, it's going to happen. It's going to happen. Just be patient. So I'm glad that happened for you too. I do tell you, I got to say, I'm a little bit disappointed though, because I was going through my calendar last night and we had put down a time for you and Tigist to go out with me and Belinda, and then you left the country. So,
you know, I don't know why this thing is extending itself.
We,
I think this has been the second time we're missing
Yep.
that.
Solomon had COVID, then we had COVID, then we put another date on the calendar, and now he's out of the country. So we're gonna have to be persistent.
Well, you know what, Gary? Maybe this is a hint for you guys to come over and do it over here, maybe in the longer run.
You didn't miss that point, did you? Way to go.
I love inviting people here. Yes.
Yeah, that was right on cue. Hey, by the way, while I'm talking about that, let me just say, Solomon, thank you for joining the board at Love KC and for the valuable wisdom that you bring to our board and perspective. You're a wonderful example of what we're trying to do with people in Kansas City, to see them really become all of who God made them to be, and to be blessed, to be a blessing and live on mission. You're doing all of those things. So thank you so much.
Well, thank you. It's honor and privilege being part of it. I love the journey that God gave me to be with you and with the others who are praying with us. And thank you for all what you do.
So on that subject, so why are you on the board at Love KC? Why do you care about Love KC?
Good question. First of all, I see myself as a bridge as I'm in Kansas City. I'm not only serving my community here in Africa, but also being part of Kansas City and engage in that. Really, God has been putting in my heart the creating the bridge for people and have that proximity of coming to the US. But we are one people that God chose us. So with that notion, I had the opportunity to serve. Before even serving, I have been part of Love KC, just engaged in many ways. And, it makes sense for me serving my community, and I love doing that. And that was the venue that was created for me to serve Love KC and love being part of it.
It's great, Solomon, how you were, when we started Love KC, you were one of the first people I knew that signed up for blesseveryhome.com so you could pray for your neighbors. And you immediately, once you started praying for your neighbors, you immediately started having stories about how God opened doors. I remember a story, I think it was about a flower. And so you were telling me those stories before I even hardly really knew who you were. And that was kind of what brought us together, because you were loving your neighbors.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's fascinating. Small thing that we don't think that would change a person's heart. I remember those moments, how she was very emotional about accepting those. And with that, we started also, inviting people to our home and cook some Ethiopian, and an amazing interaction we have seen in our life. So I think God has positioned us in that perspective to serve the community with what we have, with what God has given us in life. So,
yeah, it's beautiful. My wife, Belinda, says thank you too, because you inspired me to completely clean up my garage so we could have people over in our garage like you had people in your garage. And remember how inside your house, Tigist she had cut the lilac flowers, and she had vases of flowers all through your house. And I went out and planted lilac bushes around the corners of my house.
Oh, I don't recall that part, but
you missed that part, huh? Yeah. So Tigist was telling me that she had planted lilac bushes, and she had cut the flowers, and they were just, when you went inside your house that day, all in your house, it just smelled so beautiful. And I said, how did you get it to smell so good in your house? And she said, because I planted lilac bushes and I cut the flowers.
Yeah. You know what? Now you're saying it, now I remember, because, it was the first year we moved. When we moved, the flower wasn't there.
Right.
So the next year it starts pouring, and we smell this beautiful smell. And TG start cutting them and bringing them home.
So tell Tigist, I went out and bought lilac bushes for my house. I planted them by the corners of my house, so that when we use our garage like you, we can put the lilac flowers in there. See how much you're affecting me.
It's amazing. And praise God that we are able to do in a little way of impacting. This is beautiful. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to lead us to a wrap up here. For those of you who are listening, just want to say that you can find this on iTunes. And if you subscribe to it, you'll get a notice when the next Plus podcast comes out. Another thing that you can do is you can go to YouTube and go to the Love KC channel. And all of the podcasts that we've done, I think we did 23 podcasts last year, are there. It's a really easy way to find an individual podcast. You can also find a listing of them on lovekc.net. If you go to the resources tab and pull it down, there's a tab for podcasts and you can find them there. But you can actually watch them on YouTube on the resources tab. You just listen to the audio version, and people like it different ways. I listen to podcasts with the audio version, but if I know there's a physical version like this where I can see the people, sometimes I'll go over there to try to see what the people look like. So Solomon and Jonas, thank you so much for your time today. So great to connect with you. We're so excited for what God is doing for you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you for having us, Gary and Brooke. And,
it was so nice to meet you guys and hear your story.
Thank you.
Well, at some point we would love to have you over here.
Yeah,
it would be amazing.
Be part of the story. Yeah.
I think that might happen.
Yes.
And for those listening, I would just say, we want to hear your story. There's some great stories out there. Brooke writes a blog or two a week about stories that where people are living on mission. Most of them have a neighboring theme, but sometimes they have a theme based on pray, care, or share. So we'd love to hear your stories. You can connect with Brooke at Brooke, BROOKE at lovekc.net. And then you can if you go to the website, lovekc.net, there's a way to sign up to receive those stories. And someday we'd love to tell your story too. So God bless you. Keep living on mission. Join Jesus where he's already at work, where you live, learn, work, and play.
Thank you for listening from the folks at Love KC. We hope you enjoyed our program. See you next time.